Greetings comic lovers and welcome back to Casually Comics, the channel where we chat all things comics, from reviews of comics new and old to history to anecdotes to really wherever our whims take us. And in an era where every Wednesday there are tons of new comics that come out with reviews and amusing headlines, things like Cable Number 1. Cable Number 1 was inevitable, but it's also essential. That is melodramatic enough to be an opening narration box. Yes, I read it, and no, that's not what we're talking about. Because why talk about something recent when you can talk about something from the 1980s? That's not shade, I just read what I read when I feel like reading it. I'm Sasha, and I read a lot of Green Lantern. My love for the 1960s onwards Green Lantern run began with the quest to determine why it was rumored and critiqued at times as being boring. A reputation that stuck to Hal Jordan like glue, and some still feel is true. Well, I did find my answer because there are some rough patches and some clear, obvious attempts to combat them. I was also introduced to a most likely accidental portrayal of Hal Jordan as what I like to call a disaster human. And no matter how hard they try to make him cool, it's branded inside me. That's how I think of him. Ace test fighter pilot? Okay. He still knocked himself out on a bar of soap, asked his ex-fiancée to co-sign a lease on his apartment. Was it his car? Either way, it was a bad move. Oh, and he accidentally did shrooms. And that's just to name a few wonderful moments. We're actually about to add to them, so get excited. We're looking at issue 138, where Hal's intense introspection nearly ruins all things. Also, the cover is full of lies. And you know me, I love some good cover bait. Although this one, I mean, it kinda happens, so. Green Lantern versus Eclipso, the man who eclipsed the world. They're gonna try with these eclipse jokes, and few of them are going to land. Just a heads up. It's just really hard to make an eclipse menacing unless it's actually happening. He's casting a solar eclipse of evil. So Eclipso showed up and attacked Tom last issue. That's the Cliff Notes, but it's honestly all you need. He's here and it's the story we had to call Total Eclipso. I mean, you didn't have to call it that, unless the editors literally made you, locked you in the room. You're calling this Total Eclipso. This title does make me think of Total Eclipse of the Heart, and thankfully there's nothing I could think to sing it with that made the word Eclipso work, so you're spared. For now. Green Lantern apparently vanished last issue, but he's back and he has no patience for anything. Not what happened, not Eclipso's outfit. I'm in no mood to start explaining time paradoxes to scum like you. Excuse me, one moment. Hal can't explain time paradoxes to anyone, let alone scum. Especially when I'm not sure I fully understand them myself. Whew. There we go. All is right with the world. I was getting worried. Hal's here to save his good friend Tom. Tom Kamaku, whose full name he will often say. Tom's been around since almost the start of the Green Lantern Silver Age relaunch. He's been there since issue 2. That was almost really offensive in certain countries. I meant 2. It's what I was aiming for. I didn't mean anything. He also used to be referred to, unfortunately, as Pie Face, which was meant to convey that his face was round and had a blank expression on it. It was apparently a thing people said in the 60s. I don't know, I wasn't there. I cannot confirm or deny this. I can say it's not a phrase I've ever heard. But fans thought it was because he was Inuit, and writers were referring to an Eskimo pie, and that it was some kind of slur. Writers maintained that it wasn't, and some fans maintained that yes, it was. Whether it was or wasn't, he hasn't been called that for a very, very long time. Now he just gets to be called his full name. All the time. I like to think it's because Hal forgets. Tom is classified as a sidekick, and while he does know Hal's secret identity, there's not really a lot for him to do a lot of the time. I mean, Hal's a space cop, sometimes the threats are kind of grand, there's only so much your mechanic friend can do for you. So he ends up falling into the go-to for all side characters. Victim for the lead character's emotional pathos. How dare you harm my wife, husband, child, pet, business, shoe rack. Hal knocks out Eclipso and places Tom into a stasis chamber. This is to check him over and also to get him to safety. He also says that it'll take Eclipso hours to dig out of the rubble that he blasted him into. He's off by a lot because it's actually only gonna be a few minutes. At least it's not serious. Tom's got some internal bleeding, but that's all. What's a little internal bleeding between friends? Not serious. Despite it not being serious, Hal proceeds to get very maudlin about it. But the pity party that he's throwing is not for Tom, it's for himself. If Tom had died just because he was helping me out, if that's what it means to be a friend of Hal Jordan these days. Hal, the man has internal bleeding. This isn't about you. Then I'm not sure I care whether I live or, wow, that escalated really quickly. I think Hal needs to talk to somebody. But that someone will have to be Eclipso, because he dug himself out of that hole hours before it was anticipated. He's ready for a fight, but Hal can't fight him because he can't maintain that level of concentration to fight him and keep Tom in stasis and keep him safe. So he makes sure to send him there first. Okay, my little Eskimo buddy. Thanks, Caucasian Green Lantern. Nobody talks like this. Okay, female buddy. Even okay, buddy. Just take the man to the hospital. With Tom safely away, Hal uses giant green suns to force Eclipso to revert into his normal form, that of Bruce Gordon. If his name sounds familiar, it's purposeful. His name is apparently an inside joke, combining Bruce Wayne and Commissioner Gordon. I don't know what that joke is. It is definitely too inside for me. Eclipso gets retconned in the 90s, but we're not there yet, so allow me to tell you his current backstory. Pretty great. While in the jungle to observe a solar eclipse, scientist Bruce Gordon was attacked by a sorcerer and cut with the black diamond, which he managed to grasp as he fell. That would cause him to turn to Eclipso whenever there was an eclipse, which obviously had to be dealt with because eclipses don't happen all that often. Definitely not enough for you to base your entire villain persona around them, at least. So it would be that when the light was artificially blocked in any way, he would become Eclipso. And when a real eclipse happened, they would become two separate people. Hal's lukewarm on Bruce Gordon on the best of days, but he's lukewarm on everybody because it's the 80s and that's just how Hal is. If you're not Tom or Carol, you're pretty meh. Hal also describes his transformation back into Gordon as pulling a Larry Talbot, which I'm not gonna lie, I had to look up. He's the Wolfman. I learned something today. Even though I'd seen those movies, I'd completely forgotten his name. Bruce recounts his own backstory, which I just told you, so you don't need to hear it again, except for some of it that I'll tell you, while Hal flies him back to be arrested, I guess. We were separate entities for a time, yet Eclipso hated me with the desperate loathing of a madman. Oh, I've tried, believe me, tried everything to keep him buried inside me. And for a time, I even fooled myself into thinking I'd succeeded. I thought I was cured, but obviously Hey, are you listening to me? Just with one ear, I guess. Sorry about that. But I've got troubles of my own, friend. See, Hal, this is why your villains don't like you the way that Barry's like him. You're a bad listener. In all fairness, he's worried about Tom, who apparently is doing fine, because apparently it's just internal injuries, whatever. Bruce, on the other hand, feels terrible about what he did to Tom as Eclipso. All right, I guess I'm ready for the men in blue. Not just yet, Gordon. I'm certain you were telling the truth up there, even though I wasn't really listening. So it's Eclipso who's the criminal, not you. We'll sort it out when I get back. In the meantime, keep away from any eclipses. Deal? Hal has no time to do his job or worry about Jekyll and Hyde villains. No, he has to go find Carol, who was kidnapped a few issues ago. And her abductor is making her swim in a luxurious pool alongside her parents, who he also kidnapped. The most dastardly of schemes. So here's the thing with this era of Green Lantern. It would introduce ongoing plots, but it wouldn't always intermingle them well, or they would never meet. So it's two plots on top of each other happening simultaneously. So that if you ever jumped in, say in issue 38 for some reason, like some kind of mad YouTuber, there was the potential to be kinda lost. So Carol, kidnap revenge plot. But forget that, back to Eclipso, who, shock of shocks, it turns out it was a bad idea to just leave someone who transforms on their own with some vague instructions about doing better and avoiding eclipses. He's in his apartment when a light shines onto the wristwatch that's sitting on his bedside table and it hits him in the face and light blocked or what have you, and he's Eclipso again. Yes, he is. Green Lantern only told him to keep away from eclipses. He didn't say anything about a guy's own wristwatch. I mean, he shouldn't have had to because he should have taken him to jail, but hindsight's 20/20. So Eclipso goes to Ferris Air to complete a death ray of some kind, because aim high. It turns out that Eclipso has been influencing Gordon subconsciously for months and has been tainting his work for Ferris Air, which was for a solar-powered jet, and turning it into whatever this is. I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna love the name. Green Lantern even allowed that fool idiot Gordon to keep his black diamond, which in turn activate what I like to call my moon of murder. Hal let him keep the thing that he clearly highlighted in his backstory was what caused him to transform. He really wasn't listening at all. I don't have words, but let's just talk about the Moon of Murder, which actually is going up to eclipse the sun despite its name, because eclipses and you always gotta stay on brand because synergy. Hal, who just so happens to be back on his way to Ferris Air, sees this. If Eclipso's behind this somehow, he's about to be sorely disappointed. Who else would it be? Do you have that many Eclipse-themed villains? They're lining up with their sun-blotting out devices? But Eclipso knew he was coming, and the two face off. And by that, I mean Hal has to listen to a monologue, so this time he has to pay attention. I mean, he doesn't really have to, I guess, but he does. You see, I'm not just a madman Lantern. I am also, in my own quiet way, a philosopher. My theory is that, like Bruce Gordon, every man has both good and evil locked within. Each man, in other words, has a dark side to his nature. Oh great, Eclipso took a first-year psych class. Also, don't think I don't see you, Dark Side of the Moon reference. You are subtle, but there. And so, finally, on the last page of the story, the cover happens, leaving us the last minute, just like any prime YouTube clickbait. Hal gets blasted with the dark black diamond ray, and is in the process of being split into two people, or at least it's beginning. Eclipso is super invested in this, but here I am thinking, if the good version of Hal was already this irresponsible, I don't know if he should want to meet the bad version. I think, you know, we do meet him a little bit later in the 90s, and all I can say is, next snap. The backup issue at the end of this is an Adam Strange story, because we're still in the period where there are other stories at the end of Green Lantern's book in an attempt to promote it. It's a pretty solid story, and Alana's really cool in it, because she's always there to kick butt and take names. I mean, it's definitely not on the level of Hal doing shrooms by accident though, as far as back issues go. This issue is a bit of a mess that showcases how the two stories can sometimes feel muddled, and it messes with the pacing of both of them. So it feels really busy, but also abrupt. Still, I like this issue, but admittedly it's for all the wrong reasons. Hal is just a mess of a hero in it, ignoring people, causing more damage, just by his own negligence. Just send your villains home and tell them to avoid the thing that causes them to be supervillains in the first place. Batman doesn't need Arkham, just tell him to go home. In this era, Hal's a bit of a victim of the fact that he needs to be written however it takes to make the plot advance. So he becomes a bit of a walking or well flying disaster, and I love it. We have responsible heroes. I want a hero who's a mess and who can't walk out the door without tripping over it. If you want, we can do issue 139, but trust me, Evil Hal is a bit of a disappointment. The kidnap plot, on the other hand, wraps up in issue 140, and you're not prepared for how many bombs are strapped to chests. It's not a direction you're thinking it's going. Name a comic you like for all the wrong reasons down below. While you're down there, of course, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so that you never miss a vid. I'm Sash, and thanks so much for watching Casually Comics, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.